on.
Okay, it's 6:03. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would just like to let folks know that Ms. Altieri is unable to join us tonight, and Ms. Sargent will be a few minutes late and will be joining us shortly. Item C, adjustments to the agenda.
None for this evening.
Okay. Item D, approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting as presented.
I second that.
All those in favor? Any discussion?
You did that out of order, but that's
I
okay.
thank you, Paul, for pointing that out. I appreciate that. Item E, communications and correspondence.
I have 4 resignations to report that I'll pass around. The first is Rick Roberts has resigned as Ellsworth High School golf coach. Jadwiga Gozlowska has resigned as a second shift custodian. Ruth Farrell, also a second shift custodian, and Jennifer Terrace, Ellsworth High School English teacher.
Item F, administrative reports. Could Mr. Saunders please report first?
Good evening. I'm Donald Saunders, if you don't know me. I am the Director of Transportation. It was June 1968. 2 boys graduated from Ellsworth High School. They were in music. They both enrolled at the Northern Conservatory of Music in Bangor. They both roomed together for 4 years and graduated from music school in 1972. Don Saunders began teaching music. Nicky Pearson took his trumpet and joined the Air Force as a trumpeter. March the 26th, 1973, he was hired as an Ellsworth school bus driver, following in his dad's footsteps. So if you do the math, March 26th, 2023, marks his 50th year of service. I went back in the records and tried to figure out how many miles Nicky's driven. But I've only been here since 2015, and the records didn't go back that far. So what I did is I took the miles he traveled last year. That was 16,814 miles. And I took that and multiplied it by 50, which were conservative miles. Because according to Mike Cummins, when he came driving in 1992, he and Nicky were on the road 6 nights a week with a team going somewhere. So that means that Nicky, conservatively, has driven 840,700 miles. That's 33 1/3 times around the globe at the equator, or almost 2 round trips to the moon. Anytime a bus needs to go somewhere and no one wants to go, Nicky's hand goes up. And he'll take just about anything, anytime. And so we recognize and celebrate the service of George Nicky Pearson. Speech. Oh. You don't have to speak.
So on behalf of the Ellsworth School Department, thank you so much for all you've done for the students of this community over all these years. We're eternally grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a privilege to have you with us.
All right, Mr. Clifford, you're up.
Good evening. You have my report. And just change a little bit because it's a week later. So we did have our 8th grade open house last Thursday night. Very successful. We had about a little over 200 people that attended. 85 students were represented, and it lasted about an hour and 45 minutes and went well. A lot of information went out. A lot of kids signed up for activities and athletics, and it was a great night for sure. And it was the first time that we introduced our STEM Academy, Humanities Academy to the incoming class. And I'll touch on, so the March is the Arts Month, and now I have some results to add to the report. So some updates is the One Act Play won the regional championship, and they compete in the state championship, which we host this weekend, and they perform Friday night at 8:00 p.m. So if you are looking for something to do, please come to our theater and watch our kids perform. Jazz band. So jazz band, they won gold. Won silver for the second straight year. And winning gold as soloists were Felix Barkosian in trumpet, Wyatt Simmons in drums, Emily Hagerman in tenor sax, Katie Gleason in trombone, and Finley Harmon in the vocals. And that was for the large band. The big band received a bronze medal, and soloists were Emily Hagerman for gold, again tenor sax, Felix Markosian for trumpet, and Wrinkly Keeney for vocals. And small combo also received a bronze medal. And Elizabeth Ford won gold on the clarinet. Lindsay Serrard on vocals won gold. Katie Gleason, piano, won gold. And Noah DiDonato for alto sax won gold also. And so that is final for jazz. And then show choir is the first weekend in April, so April 1st, show choir, and I will give you those results once we have them. As you know, the winter sports season was very successful. I will bring the individuals to the next meeting. Tonight we're just going to celebrate the teams. But for individual accomplishments, so swimming champions are Ella Montgomery, Ellie Anderson, Caroline Mazgai, and Kiera Springer. We're state champions in swimming. And indoor track, Addison Nelson and Drew Pearson qualified for New England's and participated in New England's. But before I say the last few things about those individuals is we brought the cheering team and the girls basketball team. Both of them won state championships for the first time in program history, which is incredible. To do it on the same year is even more incredible. They both had unbelievable seasons and have a lot to be proud of. Cheering won the Northern Maine Championship, the state championship, obviously, and won the sportsmanship award. So that's everything that you can win, pretty much. And so I'd like to bring them up first. So cheering, come on up. So if you could just, before we do a group picture, if you wanted to state your name and what year you are, okay?
Lily, step right up, or Mercedes. Just your name and your grade, honey.
I'm Lily Alley, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Mercedes Ulickney, and I'm a senior.
I'm Mariah Rossa, and I'm a senior. I'm Olivia Layton, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Molly Smith, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Elizabeth Frost, and I'm a senior.
I'm Natalie Sawyer, and I'm a junior.
I'm Noelle Town, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Savannah Grant, and I'm a senior.
I'm Whitney Jordan, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Allie Brown, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Melanie Fox, and I get to coach these wonderful athletes.
Congratulations, ladies.
Yes.
Very well done. I'm glad to see there's so many
Amazing.
freshmen on the team with so many seniors on that team also leaving. We have high hopes.
Thank you. Good evening, school board members and the Ellsworth community. My name is Savannah Grant, and I had the honor to be part of the very first state cheering championship team from Ellsworth High School. On behalf of our team, I would like to thank everyone for the support along this journey. We would also like to thank our school board for providing us with such a supportive administration for our athletic season. Mr. Clifford, Miss Wright, and Mr. Frost were our biggest fans all season, and that meant a lot to us as a team. And we would like to thank our coaches, Coach Fox and Coach Dickens, for giving us the best season possible and a state title. And thank you for taking the time to recognize us, and we appreciate your support.
And with cheering, it's one of those sports where they work from November on, and a lot of vacation time. They have double sessions, and Sundays sometimes, and weekends are shot because all they do is practice for really 2.5 minutes, and that's their entire season. So it's a lot of pressure, and it's nerve-wracking watching, and I couldn't imagine what they go through, but it was a great result. It was really fun to watch them. And then secondly are the girls' basketball programs for state champs. Please come on up. Introduce yourself.
Morgan Clifford, senior.
Lily Bean, sophomore.
Abby Radell, sophomore.
My name's Grace Jaffrey, and I'm a sophomore.
Aaliyah Manning, I'm a junior.
Elise Sargent, sophomore.
Kaylee Bagley, freshman. Addison Atherton, sophomore.
Shannon Curtis, incredibly proud alumni and assistant coach.
Andy Pooler, coach. I've been the coach of this program for the last 12 years. This was a very special year. This is a great group. We had a great support with the cheerleaders. Proud of them. Also, just incredibly proud of this group, and it's been a long road for a long time, so glad we could bring it home.
Forget it, I'm too old. Thank you, all of you ladies, for all of your efforts on both your teams. You guys make the district extremely proud.
Go ahead, honey.
Hi, my name is Morgan Clifford. I'm a senior at Ellsworth High School, and I am a member of the girls' varsity basketball team. I just wanted to say thank you for all the support throughout the season. We wouldn't be here without your support throughout our amazing year. This community is the heart and soul of our team, and I just want to say thank you for supporting us during our journey of bringing home this gold ball. Lastly, thank you Shannon Curtis, Amy Bowles, and Andy Pooler for coaching us to the state championship. None of this would be possible without you guys. I am forever thankful for the love and support everyone has provided. Thank you.
And next board meeting, I'll bring the individuals that were state champions to the meeting. Any questions on anything?
Well done.
We're all speechless. That was,
Yeah.
it's so impressive.
It's absolutely
Yeah,
overwhelming.
not sure you can top this one.
I know.
Yeah.
Mr. Frost.
I got a quick story. So, and I think Dan's okay with me saying this, but obviously, if you don't know, my daughter's on the cheer team. So it was a pretty special moment to obviously host the Northern Maine Championship and then obviously go to states and to have that happen. And I may have shed a tear or two. I think the girls saw that. So, you know, after the girls' basketball team went and won, obviously the gold ball, Dan told me, he said, you know, I was kind of jealous. Your senior daughter, you know, winning the state championship. And, you know, I really didn't know what was going to happen with the girls' basketball program and how good they would be. And then obviously they went and did that and won the gold ball. So in typical Clifford fashion, he's got to one-up me and and they both went at the same time, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, obviously, both being administrators of the high school, to have senior daughters going out as state champions, so it's pretty cool.
Thank you, all of the coaches, for all your work.
I might be a little teary-eyed.
I know.
Oh, it's so
We're awful
wonderful.
proud. And now they're all looking at me saying, can we please leave, Amy? Please, can we go? If you'd like to stay, you are more than welcome, girls. If you would like to leave, you may leave.
We understand.
Thanks for,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
girls.
coming.
For your efforts. Congratulations.
Are we leaving it?
They're yours to take. You earned them.
And there goes our crowd.
Thank
Bye,
you,
you
Mr.
guys.
Fox.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's you. I'm
Go
sure you
celebrate.
will.
It's well deserved.
Aw. Morgan, Morgan, Morgan.
All right.
Follow that, Mrs.
I
Blair.
Well, this principal mom is pretty proud too.
Yep.
So,
I hear you.
So you have my report. Just a couple of things that I'd like to highlight from that report. We have started the Girls Who Code program this month for middle school students, and that club has been meeting Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is a project that I took to Mrs. Hollenbach, and she's kind of run with it, and I've been able to help a couple of times. I was able to drop in today for the last few minutes. I was able to be there the whole time last session. So she's really spearheaded that. I'm really proud. Today in there were 12 girls that were working on that, and they were working in Scratch. And today the challenge was to make a game, to develop and design the game with the tools in Scratch that could catch an object. So they had a recycling can, and some of the girls had bread falling into it, some of them had dinosaurs falling into it, but they were doing other things, and they developed that game from beginning to end through a lesson that lasts about an hour. Next month, we're starting the grades 3 and 4 opportunity for girls to do that. We are overloaded with the requests to be a part of that, so we're trying to figure out how we can get the most kids at least some exposure with that program. So we're excited to have that just get started and to really kind of have that develop as we go through the years. I had the privilege of watching our home wrestling meet a couple weeks ago now, and it was just super fun. There was a lot of students and fans and parents in the stand to watch that program develop. I want to definitely thank Mrs. Bukowski for scoring that and working there, and her husband is our middle school wrestling coach, and it was just a great program, and it's nice to see students who are involved in other athletics to be able to get the support from their peers, and it was just a great opportunity to see that. They had a meet with Bucksport, and they said it was Machias, but it definitely wasn't Machias. But they had another school that came down and did that. And the last thing that was in my report is that we had our kindergarten concert, which was always well attended, and it was absolutely fabulous. Mrs. Kellogg, again, this is the beginning of what we call our concert season at school, and she has done an absolutely fabulous job with those students. They performed songs that include sign language, sounds, they had roars. It was a really great night. In addition, what they've done is they've combined an art show with that, so all the work that students have done, Mrs. Baldwin displayed, and as the night concluded with a concert, all the students were able to take all their art pieces home. So it was absolutely fabulous, and Mrs. Baldwin always ties everything to literature, children's books when she does her art projects, so it's just an awesome night for all. And so we have our first grade concert coming up, and as we get through the concert season, I'll be sharing more of those. I do want to share something that I had the opportunity to do yesterday with 2 students. We were able to, based on teacher nominations, we took 2 girls for Girls' Day at the State House yesterday. I felt it was really important to work on establishing student leadership in the school, which I've talked to the board about and Mrs. Bowles before. And Braylon Bird and Harper Turner were the 2 representatives, and they really represented our school community very well. It was a great day. They got an opportunity to hear the governor speak. They got the opportunity to have lunch with different legislators, and we had a wonderful and inspiring speech by the Speaker of the House. It was a great opportunity. They had the opportunity to debate a real bill that was up, and the bill was about starting high school at 8:30 in the morning for all high schools, which is an actual bill, and they were assigned different positions, and both young ladies were on the position of supporting the bill. So in committee, Braylon spoke very well in support of that committee, and then Harper had the opportunity to speak to all the full in the House chambers. She spoke to everyone in support of that bill, and it was just an awesome experience for both girls. I wanted to thank Donnie and Bill for making it happen on the bus ride so that we were able to go, and I had a wonderful day spending time with 2 8th grade girls, and it was just a great it was great for me because it was definitely refreshing and getting excited about some of the things that we're putting in place for next year as we work through those things. But it was awesome to showcase 2 young girls who have great leadership potential and will definitely be assets at the high school next year. Any questions about my report?
You guys are just incredible. I having kids that have gone now through almost all the end of 8th grade and now going into high school, I am so impressed with the programs and the extra things you guys have brought to our kids at the elementary school and the high school. I feel like our programs and opportunities just outshine any other district I've ever known.
I know
well
that.
Done.
I know that one of the focuses too, Ms. Miller, was when we did the COVID survey. I don't remember if you remember the parent survey. One of the things that they talked about was extra opportunities for kids, and that was a priority that we had talked about. So offering the Crazy Eights Math Club for Mrs. Stackpole, offering the rollerblading, offering the STEM clubs. Mrs. Stackpole did a younger grade STEM club as well. So just offering opportunities after school for kids to get enrichment. I think that was a priority that our community communicated to us and that we're trying to fulfill.
You're doing it. Well done.
Well, and when you look at her report, over 120 kids, grades 2 through 4, took advantage of skate club after school.
That's awesome.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I got to show a new student around who was incoming and after school, and skate club was going on, and it was like, what? I'm like, yes. Can you believe we have this? Can you not wait to come here? Well done.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep my comments pretty brief, so I'm going to take a lot of your time next month because we have all of our Skills USA medalist honor and all of our participants. But we did have a fantastic 2 days. We went up Thursday last week. They participated on Friday and competed and just had some amazing results. But things I'd like to focus on for this, we had our financial fitness fair, which we housed at HCTC, which was unbelievable. We kept all of our students back from anything that they were doing, internships, and kept them in the building for this. And just to be able to have the support from our main credit unions, to have people there. I mean, we had 20 plus community members there just working with our students. So it was just an amazing event. If you followed, our Tailwind Media videos are out and being released. Tomorrow will be the last one. We hit our last program today at Welding, and then the Bridge program will go out tomorrow. So that's kind of neat that those have been through, and people are, getting a lot of sharing with that. And I think it's nice to be able to focus on what our program is. And I had a lot of comments back to me like, "Oh, I didn't realize you guys had that," or "I didn't think you guys had that as a program." So it's really nice to be able to hear. I guess the last thing I would just comment on is our recruiting updates. I've been to each school in Hancock County. We've had a number of students who are interested. I have 140 first-year applicants right now, which is on pace to be right where we were this past year. And then this week, we have our middle school camp coming up. And within a week, I'm full. Like, I have over 100 students signed up for that camp. So we're looking forward to that on this Saturday. But it should be a good event. And you have my report. Does anyone have any questions?
No, great job.
Thank
Those
you.
videos are awesome.
Yeah, they did a really nice job.
Yeah, they
Looking
are.
forward to
They're
seeing, next month, seeing the kids from Skills.
Yes.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
33 medals, and 4
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
officers. So
Wow.
awesome stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Mrs. Bowles, you are up.
Okay, first, I would like to take a moment to mention all of our teachers that were nominated for Teacher of the Year this year. A couple were mentioned at our last meeting, but I want to make sure that everyone hears all of the teachers that were nominated, as the Ellsworth School Department had quite a few. Tara Mason, our hospitality, travel, and tourism instructor from HCTC. Katie Woodward, our Jobs for Mains graduates instructor at Ellsworth High School. 2 math instructors, Silas Retton and Brian Smith, both at Ellsworth High School. Kayla Reardon, our Ellsworth High School special education teacher. Sarah Petrulis, our biomedical sciences instructor at HCTC. Grade 3 teacher Mary Lowell at Ellsworth Elementary. Carrie Cutney, Ellsworth High School Spanish. Joe Gunn, Ellsworth High School Social Studies. Lindsay Bailey, Ellsworth High School English teacher. Christopher Betts, Ellsworth High School Alternative Educator. Jillian Baker, Ellsworth High School Science. Jamie Calandro, Ellsworth High School Music. Bob Ellis, Ellsworth High School Special Education teacher. Nathan Cutting, Ellsworth High School English teacher. And Andrew Ford, grade 8 at Ellsworth Middle School. So exceptionally proud. Every time I had a span where my email just kept dinging, and it was because I got an individual letter about every single one of these nominees. So the next step in the process was they had to attend a Zoom, and they choose whether or not they put themselves forth for the next round. They have a lot of work they have to do to add to their application, and then we'll be notified soon about results and if we have anyone move forward. So extremely proud. Administrators can nominate, students can nominate, fellow teachers can nominate, so to have this many was pretty awesome. Next, I want to update you on a letter I received last week from the state regarding our ESEA federal programming. So for us, one of the things that happens is we are a whole school title grant recipient, and the feds monitor all of our grant funding, as does the state. And because of a lot of the transitions that we've had over the last year, they have placed us on what's called a high monitoring status. So what that means is that over the next couple of weeks, we get a checklist of things that we have to show documentation of that we're doing. It's almost kind of an internal audit that we have to show the state that we are managing our grants, Title I through 5, and that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's and going through the right process. As you can see, we have different levels that we have to go through as part of this. The one good thing is they will be doing a Zoom with us at the end of the month to kind of give us more details about this, that we'll all attend at central office to make sure that we're where we need to be. A couple of the things that they identified, reasons why you get put on high monitoring status, things like high turnover at the superintendent's position is one of the reasons. So that was identified. Reimbursement requests, quarterly reimbursement requests coming in sporadically. Under Maine's model of school support, how are we doing meeting our data points and those kinds of things? Do we have excess carryover funds from year to year? A lot of schools have excess carryover funds right now because of COVID. So we still are working on carryover funds and reallocating those funds currently. So we'll have updated information after we attend that Zoom at the end of March. One of the things that we have identified in our school department, specifically K-8, is the need for us to continue beefing up our mathematics instructional practices. As you know, we have a new curriculum this year. One of the things that we're constantly doing, now that professional development is not always over Zoom, looking for different professional development opportunities for our staff, math being one of those areas that we need that in. So Mrs. Clifford and I spoke, and Mrs. Clifford submitted us for the Math for Me application process. And I put a description in here. This is a 3-year K through 5 program to strengthen math proficiency for all learners with specific focus on increasing math proficiency with students with IEP goals in the regular ed classroom, along with content, routines, pedagogical practices. They look at the early mathematics diagnostic interview as an assessment for us to be able to see where our kids are at, and we will be able to use this support to help us build our MTSS system, as well as family engagement practices in the area of mathematics. I've listed the goals for you. As I've talked to you, we have a huge need to develop our MTSS system. We don't currently have one, which is not good. And one of the things that will be a part of that, if we were to get this, what would be really nice about this is that that'll couple that work nicely. So it won't add additional work to the plate. It'll come together and provide us with professional development for our K-5 teachers in the area of mathematics. The next couple of things I want to report on are about community collaboration. As you know, that's a big goal of mine, is to increase the school department's collaboration with our community. So in here, I've highlighted a couple of different things that have been going on. First, on March 9th, Mr. Clifford and I, along with Ellsworth High School staff members Julia Berry, Nate Cutting, and Katie Hessler, met with Aaron Doherty from the Frenchman's Bay Conservancy. They are hopeful and close to purchasing the Whitney property, which, as you know, abuts Ellsworth High School. One of the things that they approached us about was how we could partner and collaborate on the use of that land, possibly, and talked about how could we tie outdoor classrooms and outdoor learning to curriculum so that staff and students can benefit from the added use of that area. So we are going to continue meeting and talking about different ways we could collaborate on that. Then I also want to, I attached in my report, Ellsworth High School is going to be, or is partnering with the Ellsworth Chamber of Commerce to do a career fair at the beginning of April. And the high school staff has worked very hard with the chamber to have students be able to go through in the gym. Businesses can set up and have job applications and talk to kids about summer employment, future employment, whatever they may want. This happened, I believe, last year, and the chamber was really excited to get back into the high school and talk to students and visit with students about possible opportunities for them. So we're working closely with the chamber on that. And then I also met with representatives from the Noontime Rotary Club. One of their missions at Noontime Rotary is career aspirations of students. And so they approached us about collaborating with Hancock County Technical Center and Ellsworth Middle School to do a career fair for middle schoolers next year. The partnership would include the Noontime Rotary, the Chamber, and the school department in fun activities to engage middle school students, to educate them about the career opportunities that are out there that maybe they aren't thinking about or even really know or understand. So we're excited about those collaborations and excited to bring some of these back into our schools. One of the things that we are doing, especially during budget season, we're always looking for grant opportunities for our schools. And we have submitted an application for the Title I Summer Reallocated Funds Grant that was put out. The state reallocated Title I funding and gave school districts a competitive bidding to put in proposals for summer school. So Lisa Backman, April Clifford, Rachel Corman-Ramos worked on putting together a proposal and submitting the grant to the state by the deadline. And we won't know for a while if we get it or not, but we have backup plans if we didn't. There's only so much money, and typically chances are a lot of that funding goes to your bigger cities that have higher need necessarily, but we felt like we needed to try and apply, and we have backup plans in place if that funding doesn't come through. Finally, at the last meeting, you voted to approve Ellsworth High School applying for the MELMAC grant, and we did receive that $20,000 grant, so I wanted to announce that. So that was exciting. And then finally, not in my report, I wanted to make sure I acknowledged the poolers who donated a coach bus for the girls' basketball team to travel to Portland. As you know, the girls had a stressful long couple weeks with all the cancellations, and they had an exceptionally long day, having to leave in the morning and didn't get back until close to midnight. So the coach bus, I can say, was much appreciated personally. And what the funny story about it is, you know, you put in for the bus and you don't know what you're going to get. And we got the Mercedes-Benz coach bus that Sear was trying out. That is $250,000. And the girls were like, oh my God. No, we didn't select that, girls. It just so happened. So I want to acknowledge and show appreciation to the poolers for doing that, for the coaching staff, the girls, and the cheerleaders who supported us. So it was much appreciated.
I'm going to say I met that bus in the morning as it crested the hill on my way to work, and I said, if that bus is headed to that high school, those girls are going to die. And the next thing I know, I got a text from my daughter that said, Mom, you are not going to believe what gets pulled up.
Oh, I even sent a text to my husband and was like, look at what I'm going to be in. It's
I
my
was on
one
the
and
phone
only
with my
time
friend and was
ever
like,
that I will be in
my
one.
God, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
and
quite lovely.
What time did that game start? It was around 7?
Yes, and so
And they had to go
because-
down early so they could get some practice time in the gym
Yes.
because they had never played there before. The other team had.
Correct.
So it was a really long day for them. And you know,
Yes.
I mean, our school buses in our district are great. They would have done it.
Mhm.
but-
Absolutely.
But I think the being able to rest more comfortably on the bus on the way down may have helped them, may have made a difference, and it was a one-point game.
Let's go with that.
And charging of phones.
And I will say, on the way back, they were sore. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a physical game.
Yeah.
And so to be able to lounge and rest comfortably and had a bathroom, they thought that was pretty cool, even though they were all scared to use it. It really was incredibly appreciated, and definitely under the circumstances. If it had been a typical down and back, a school bus would have been wonderful and fine, but all the extras that they had to do for that day, it was really appreciated. So I want to make sure I acknowledge and thank them for that.
That's a big thank you to the poolers. Thank you.
Yes. That's everything.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item G, committee reports. Mr. Marcosian, do you want to start us off?
Okay, I'm on 2 committees. Finance, which I think we're going to hear about in a little later in this meeting when Mrs. Bowles gives us an update on the budget, which we are working hard on completing. And speaking of completing, we're not quite there yet, but we've continue to meet with the teachers for their new contract, which will go into effect July 1st. So we feel like we started this process early, and we're making good progress, and we have our next meeting scheduled with them coming Monday. And can't predict when it's going to be over, but, we're feeling very good about it. Right?
Very good about
Yes,
it.
we're close. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deb, do you want to report out on facilities?
Sure. First thing, the rental boiler is going away end of this month, so that's good. We made it through the winter. We weren't sure, but
Do we have to use it?
we did not. So we hooked it up, but through even all the cold spells and whatnot, boilers held up, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's leaving. The review for the roof leak at the high school that caused the music room ceiling, unfortunately, to cave in, is being processed for the insurance, and we're still sort of waiting on that. HCTC hallway roof was fixed, covered under warranty, all taken care of. EEMS, same thing. The leaks that happened there through all the ice damming and whatnot was also under warranty and has already been fixed. Library flooring is approved, and tentative start date on that is July 5th. I think that's kind of all we can sort of talk about at the moment, but all good things have happened and are being taken care of.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Miller, policy?
We've got a few things in the works. One of the things that, are we going to be voting on tonight, I believe?
Yeah, we have several
We have one
votes
coming
tonight.
up. Some of the things that we're not voting on tonight that are kind of in the works, we just kind of want to update. The Walsh family had brought to our attention the need for bus drivers and other people in the school who aren't necessarily your child's teacher to possibly know of medical conditions that could affect care under them. And we looked at policies, but it's a procedural, and it is, we have it now pretty much all in place and has been updated. So we should not only be in state compliance, but it should be a very smooth transition with everything. The nurses had done a lot of work on this, and we want to thank them for it. It's a big one. We are going to be talking about the new policy regarding school celebrations and religious celebrations for families. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. And we're still going through we have certain updates that we have to make on language to existing policies, kind of combing through, prioritizing, and most of those language pieces have been very small. We've been focusing on the tobacco policy, making sure we're up to date, and we have Ms. Bowles to thank for doing all this research and getting all this together and putting it together for us. There's actually a lot moving forward, and it's all because we have a really good collaboration going, and Ms. Bowles puts a lot of effort into it, so thank you.
Thank you. I will give a quick update on the curriculum committee met on March 7th, and the majority of the meeting was spent exploring a new schedule for Ellsworth High School, which Mr. Clifford will be talking about in a little bit, so I will hold off on that and wait for his report out.
Great.
So that's it. Okay. Item H, public participation. Seeing none, we will move on to item I, new business. Number 1, second read and adoption of policies.
So at the last board meeting, I explained policy ADF, school district commitment to learning results. It was a minor change that looked at the superintendent and designees updating the board. And then the new policy that we have before you tonight for second read is IMDC, cultural and religious holidays, to put protections in place for students who have particular religious beliefs, whether it be fasting and rules around that or attendance at school. So those both are our 2 second read policies this evening that we would ask for you to approve.
Do you have a motion?
I move to approve second read and adopt the following new amended policies as presented, ADF and IMDC.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Just so people know, this cultural and religious holidays, it extends not only with our school day, but also our sports. So with this policy, a child cannot be told you cannot participate in an upcoming game or competition because your family needed time to observe a religious holiday. This is an important feature that I think people need to be aware of, because not everybody has the same holidays. They don't all fall on the same calendar, and we need to be, proactive in making sure every kid is covered.
All those in favor? Thank you. Number 2.
So as we move forward, as we review policies, we're also presenting to you policies even if there are no changes, so that we can prove legally that we've done an update and a check-in. So tonight we have CHCAA, which is our student handbook, and the policy committee and I recommend no changes to that policy.
I move to acknowledge and accept the review of the CHCAA student handbooks with no changes as presented.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
And then tonight, for first read, we have a change to 2 policies, one very minor. Policy CHD, administration in the absence of policy. The only change to that policy is that under the cross-reference, we had a policy listed that doesn't exist for the Ellsworth School Department. So we needed to make a change to take that out under the cross-reference section so that we were accurate. So that is the only change to policy CHD. And then under JL, our student wellness policy, this policy was revised as a result of the school nutrition review we went through this fall. As you remember, we had very minimal recommendations of that review, but one that we had was to add a community section to our wellness policy, which is reflected in this, that identifies specific people that would serve on our wellness committee, which he has done a good job recruiting and gaining representation on. So we've added that language to the policy for your first read.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I move to acknowledge and accept first read of the following amended policies as presented. JL, Student Wellness, and CHD, Administration in the absence of policy.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. Item 3, consideration and approval of AEYC collaboration.
So you received a copy of their proposed contract in your board packet so that the public understands the vision of what this is and to explain it a little bit. So one of the breakout sessions that I went to this fall when I went to a workshop with Educate Maine was done by the Gorham School Department and Maine AEYC. One of the things that we've identified pretty quickly that is an issue, not just in the school department, but in the city of Ellsworth, is the lack of coordinated services and early learning for our young ones. And when they come to Ellsworth Elementary Middle School, a lot of kids aren't ready, whether it's socially, emotionally, behaviorally, academically, what have you. Kids are not getting served in a cohesive way is one issue. The second issue is a statewide issue, which is recruiting workers for early learning ages, which is birth. They say through 5th grade, but for this purposes, we're looking at the early elementary grades. One of the things that Maine AEYC does, and for those out there that don't know, it's the Maine Association for the Education of Young Children, is they have people that go to communities and do work with them on how to better serve the city or the community. So I've done a few meetings with the woman who would come and do this work for us, and I really like her. Her name's Heather Martin. She works for Maine AEYC. And what it would entail is a 10-month collaboration and study. She would be the consultant and the person that would bring it all together. The school department would have representation on this committee. City council would have representation on this committee. And then we would be going to the Y, to Down East Community Partners, CDS, Special Education Services, private daycare providers, different people who have different lenses of which we do early learning, and talk about, as a city, where do we want early learning in the city of Ellsworth to go long term. As you know, one of the issues that we have had is a consistent pre-K program at our school, the ability to find workers for that and to have cohesive services. And then even just the communication and collaboration between some of the community partners that provide the services to families and kids is not cohesive. So what we would like to do is go into this collaboration with Maine AEYC with your blessing, and Heather would become our consultant under this contract, and for a period of 10 months there would be monthly meetings, a mixture of Zoom and in person. She and I would work together to build who is on that committee, and then we would start looking at the goals. In Gorham, they had several things that came out of it. For example, the school department committed to having public pre-K in their school for 2 classrooms within the next 3 years. Part of that collaboration was they agreed that all early learning teachers at their local Ys could attend our professional development days so that they were receiving some of the same information that our teachers were, so things were cohesive through the system. There was discussion about professional development for in-home daycares. So they came out with some actionable steps that the committee felt good about, and everybody was on the same page moving forward. And they had some recommendations for CDS and services and how that could look. So I'm looking for the board's commitment tonight to enter into partnership with a Maine AEYC for me to sign this. It is at a cost of $6,000. $5,000 of it is for her 50-hour commitment to the 10 meetings across the course of a year. And then $1,000 is for communication supplies, meeting and events, and things that we would help her with. If we can use grant funding to do this, I plan to. If it is not an allowable expense, we will use local funds to pay for this. But looking for the board's support to move forward with this work.
100%. Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the collaboration agreement between the Ellsworth School Department and the Maine Association for the Education of Young Children as presented.
I second that motion.
Discussion?
I think this is more than needed. And at $6,000, I think we're going to see a gigantic return on investment, because for every $1 you spend in prevention, you save $11 later on when it comes to education and early intervention. And it's funny, I actually know where the deficit happened. When we had kids and our kids were really little, we had play groups to go to in this area that were free to us and were subsidized through grants. And there were 3 in this town, and they had professionals overseeing them. And if you went to these regularly, if your child was missing, not hitting certain milestones, there was somebody there to say, you know, by the way, have you thought about, have you looked into, and helped you connect the dots to things like testing and whatnot. And that grant money went away to those facilities, and that all went away. And we are now seeing it in the schools, because this is not being caught early. And then we provided space for the pre-K program, but they didn't have enough people to actually, the facility, the entity outside of the school department did not have the person to run it. So, it has, in the end, it's cost us as taxpayers. So we need to bridge that gap. However, we need to do that. This is obviously the starting point, but it's there, and I hope that the rest of the community gets on board with this. And
I agree, Abby. I feel that very often school departments work in silos, and to reach out and to have a community effort to work to do what's best in the best interest of our young learners is definitely for the benefit of us all. So, do I have a vote? All those in favor? Thanks for joining us, Mr. Marcosian.
I was going to say, you made me a little nervous there, Mr. Marcosian. I was like, oh, boy.
Thinking it over.
Thank you.
Just keeping you in suspense.
You're good. It's all right. Keep me on my toes.
Item 4, discussion and consideration of board representation on the HCTC Building Committee.
So, as you know, at the last meeting, we reported out the city council had funded a study and brought together a committee to work on plans for what a building could look like, and looked at a variety of options. That work that the city put forth, that project is now completed. And when the committee last met, discussed what is the next step. So when we met, we discussed that new construction application projects are probably going to be released in the fall for us to apply for a new building through the state. But we really don't know how much money there will be and where we will fall on the ranking. We all had a collective commitment to applying for that, but also a commitment for what are we going to do if we don't get on the list high enough, 1. And 2, what if we get on the list, but the funding is less than what our community wants for a new HCTC? So that committee decided that the project should get turned over to the school department now, and that a new committee should be formed that I would work in collaboration with EBDC on. EBDC has identified 2 members of their board that are very committed to this work to be on the board, and City Council is working on having members from City Council on the board, and we're looking for board representation on this as well, 1 to 2 members. This group is charged with getting us ready for the state application process, but also beginning to identify what types of communication and outreach can we start doing to lay the foundation for what this is going to look like if we go to the public or think about having to not get state funds. What would be our next steps? So tonight, I think what we're looking for is just consider this, and if this is a commitment you're willing to take on, do you want them to email you?
Yep.
Okay. You'll email Kelly if you're interested, and if we could have 1 or 2 of you to do that, and then she'll figure out how we're going to do that. And then once City Council also lets me know who will represent them, we'll probably meet pretty quickly to start getting organized and work on that. So it's exciting. The group is very committed to continue the work. Very pleased that everyone knows and believes in a new HCTC. And really what it's coming down to now is waiting for that state application process to find out where we are on the list. But trying to get things in place now for support for that from the public. Is there anything you or Paul want to add since you are on that committee?
Just out of curiosity, if the process, if the state was to open up the application process in the fall, how long does that process go on? Like, how long does the application process
No, it's
take?
going to be a year to 18 months.
Yeah, because it's not just filling out a single sheet of paper and sending it in. It's
no,
like,
it's
it's pretty,
a lot of
it's a
work.
huge application. It takes a lot of work.
The good news is that we have the study we just did.
Right.
And all of that data and the data from the last one we did can all be put in. Any improvements we've made to the building, we have to report on, but now it's considered hold harmless. So you actually don't lose points for doing upgrades to your school. You gain points for having done things. Where everyone used to believe back then it hurt you to put money into your building. Now that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I think our committee was united in, we own that building. So even if we build a new HCTC, that building is the city's, it is ours. So we need to think
Maintain
about
it.
that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, what kind of a commitment is this?
I think it's going to
committee, do you think?
be, I would guess, every 4 weeks.
Yep.
Maybe a little less or a little more.
So about once a month?
I would
a
think
meeting
once a month. They're typically an hour, hour and a half. You're talking about business people. Sometimes they might be during the day, maybe at night, depending on who we have for the makeup of the committee. Jake Taylor is staying on the committee. As you know, he's been with this. This has been his baby from the beginning. Very passionate about it. And I believe it's Tony McKim is the other business person who's going to be on the committee, I believe.
Okay.
And
So
we've
just
had,
shoot
in the
Kelly an
past,
email.
we've had Dale Hamilton was on, and who was the other counselor recently? It's changed a couple times.
It's changed.
Yeah.
And then Becky Sargent was citizen at large.
Yeah. And then
And Glenn.
The city manager, Mr. Mosier, and superintendent have served on it.
Mr. Tracy's super excited to be on it.
Yay!
And some of the meetings, because I was on the committee that was initiated, I think 4 years ago or something like that. Some of the meetings were via Zoom, and some are in person.
Yep.
But even after COVID has subsided, we've still continued to have some meetings via Zoom just because it's just easier. You know, Jake Taylor might be.
Might be in
He'll be
Portland.
sitting
Yeah.
in his front seat of his pickup truck,
Often.
parked off the side of the road somewhere, and so we can all do our.
He's been exceptional.
Yeah.
So, If anyone is interested, email me by the end of the week, maybe, if you're interested.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, item 5, consideration and adoption of the 2023-24 ESD calendar.
So there are no changes from the draft that I sent you last time. The feedback's been pretty minimal. Again, as for people at home, a couple of the biggest changes is we've added a second day of new staff orientation. And that second day is for teachers to be trained in the curriculums that they're going to use. Even if they're a veteran teacher, depending on where they come from, they may not have used our curriculum, so giving them an additional day to get their feet wet with that. And the biggest change is we've moved 2 student days to professional days. So we were over the allotted amounts for student days by the state by 2. And since coming on board and identifying some of the major work we have to do in the area of curriculum and instruction, we are looking to add the 2 professional development days back to Thanksgiving week, which was already a week where absences were huge this past year because people got accustomed to going on vacation that week when we didn't have school. So we're looking to put those back in to the school calendar, which would give us our 2 additional professional development days. It's important to note that this calendar matches up with our other school systems in Hancock County. As you know, by law, we have to have less than 5 dissimilar days. The Hancock County superintendents are always wonderful about making sure that that is taken care of in the calendar. And with this change, we are still in compliance with that. And we've identified that on Friday, December 22nd, we will have a half day so people can get on the roads, including staff, for the holiday week.
Okay, wonderful. Do I have a motion? I make a motion to approve and adopt the 2023-2024 Ellsworth School Department calendar as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
I would anticipate that a lot of families are going to be grateful for having no school for their kids during Thanksgiving week.
I do too.
I agree. I love this calendar.
No, I'm like, how do we keep it going forward after this too? I'm like, yay.
Yeah, it's great. All right, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Number 6, presentation and adoption of the new EHS course and bell schedule. Mr. Clifford.
I feel like saying, come on down.
All right, so a little bit of history from last year, or the total process coming to this bell schedule and the new courses. So last year, we knew that our population is growing every year. And last year, we started to feel that. We had some courses that were really full, like 25, 26, 27 kids, which we have this year. We felt that we really wanted to offer more electives for our students. And the only way to do that is to hire. But as you know, we have no space in our high school to hire. And so the next best thing is to add a period onto our bell schedule, and that really fixes everything that we need. So we're really excited about that. The process started in the spring, just discussing, and then when the school year started, I put a bell schedule committee together. There were 3 students, 1 representative from freshman class, sophomore class, junior class. And then teachers, there was 1 representative from every single department in the school. And so we started meeting in October, and the beginning of November, in between sports seasons, because some of the students were athletes. And we met after school, and we took some focused learnings. I think we met a total of 7 or 8 times to come up with 2 schedules that we were comfortable with. And the first thing we did is make a list of things that we really wanted to keep in our schedule that we really liked and things that we wanted to update. The updates were our focused learning, we thought was a little too long. When students make up an assessment, it usually takes 20, 25 minutes, and right now it's 50 minutes. And so the rest of the time, they're just kind of hanging out, and so that was something that we shortened. The other was advisory. We have it every day. They thought every day was a little too much, and so now we have it once a week in both schedules that we looked at. And then we looked at schedules all over the state of Maine. We looked at New Hampshire, Vermont, Virginia. It's unbelievable how many high school schedules there are out there. None are the same, or very rarely are they the exact same. It's really what fits your school, what fits your personnel, what fits your culture. And we narrowed it down to two schedules. And then we took these schedules and we surveyed faculty and staff, and we surveyed some students. And the results of that were there were 94 students that were surveyed. And we had the two schedules was a rotating schedule, which are 8 periods, 52 minutes, and 2 periods don't meet each day. Okay, right now we have a rotating schedule where 1 period doesn't meet each day. The 52-minute rotating would be 2, but they would still meet 4 times a week. And then we had the traditional block schedule where there were 75-minute classes, 4 periods a day, and they would meet every other day. So we would have a maroon day and a gray day. And so those were the two schedules that we forwarded. And in the student survey, 55% like the 52-minute classes, 33.5% like the block schedule, the 75-minute classes, and 10.6% said either schedule is fine. And then we surveyed faculty and staff, which are 50. 56% like the rotating, the 52-minute schedule, 26% like the block schedule, the 75-minute schedule, and 18% was either schedule would work for them. And so with that, we decided on the rotating 52-minute schedule. And each schedule, the Friday was the exact same. Because if you take 8 periods and go through a Friday and try to meet each, I think it came to like 18 minutes, which everyone decided is really kind of a waste of time. So we would do the every other. So there'd be an even Friday and an odd Friday. So 1, 3, 5, 7, we would meet, and they're 60-minute periods. And then the next Friday would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and they'd be 60-minute periods. Lunch is a little bit longer, and because lunch, the other part was a transition with HCTC. That's a problem right now. So when HCTC comes over, our period 4 has started. And so when they come in, they miss about the first 10 minutes of class, okay, if they have class first. If they have lunch, they miss the first 10 minutes of lunch. And so it's been that way, forever. And so that was one of the issues that the committee decided we really need to fix. So now we backed up lunch so it meets that time. And when they come in, they're either eating lunch or they're in focused learning. So there's no class time during that transition. And we think that's going to work really well too. So if you're not in lunch, then you're in focused learning. And we're excited about it. We put a lot of work into it. I think it's going to really help us. And as you look at the new classes that we're going to offer, we're excited about that too. Departments have been working hard the last 6 to 7 weeks on coming up with classes, something new that they want to teach. And I'm really excited about the electives.
Can you list the electives?
Yeah, so military history, American foreign policy after the Cold War, mystery, mayhem, and true crime, journalism, African Middle East studies, conversational French, SERVE, which is a special education vocational experience, East Asian studies, research this, the writing lab, graphic novels, and history of math.
Wow.
Pretty
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Nice to see journalism in there.
Yeah.
It's nice to see all those things in there.
Yeah.
They're informative electives. Like, I like that they're electives, but like learning electives, like interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Tristan Bates thinks history and math will be full quickly, so we'll see.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure kids will be lining up to take that.
I'm gonna tell you, my sophomore, no.
Yeah.
No.
So currently, the current schedule has how many periods during the day, Monday through Thursday?
So 6.
6.
Yeah.
So this new one will have 8? No.
So, well,
It'll-
go
it'll-
back. So right now we have 7 periods.
7 periods.
Okay, in our schedule, 6 meet each day.
Right.
Okay. Now we'll have 8 periods in our schedule. Again, 6 will meet each day.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And if a kid was ambitious and wanted to take a 7th, squeeze a 7th class in,
Yep.
he or she could potentially do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's great about it, selfishly, is one of the benefits of it is a student that wants to go to Hancock County Technical Center,
Mhm.
now having the ability to take 7 classes, possibly if they want to, their freshman and/or sophomore year, is going to give them much more flexibility to take things. Kids that currently could maybe get a 3rd year of a foreign language in and access CTE
Yeah.
are now going to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Which is an excellent, excellent thing to come out of this committee work.
And it helps numbers with our teaming. So we'll have more teachers on each team.
Yes.
Except the freshman team, they're full, but the sophomore team, junior team, and senior team, so it helps with that also.
And it's gonna help you with like Spanish 1, reducing class
Yeah.
size.
Right.
Those
Yeah.
classes should be smaller.
Right.
For kids to get that introductory level, especially since that's not something that we have in Ellsworth at our lower levels.
Yeah.
So having smaller class sizes for those introductory courses is another big thing that this schedule helps accomplish.
So where'd you find this schedule?
Was it New Hampshire, Vermont?
So no, this is a great story. So
That's why Paul
we're going
asked
through
that
all
question.
these. We're going through all of these schedules, and then we came up. I think it was 4, and we were looking at pros and cons. And then Tyler Hollenbach comes in, who's a freshman representative. Okay, he comes in. He's like, I've been working on this schedule, and I typed it up, and just what do you think? So we started looking at that schedule. And then we were going back to the others, and the more we looked at his, the more we liked, with a couple tweaks. His was a true rotating schedule all the way through. But because of internships, internships was the biggest thing. And of course, Cruz Coffin was on the committee, and he was all about, senior priorities and senior privilege.
Yes.
So that would mean period 1 would be like the 4th period that day, and so can I leave and come back? And so we made some tweaks and made the schedule more consistent, so it's not a rotating every single day. But it was Tyler's
So a
schedule
freshman
that we went by.
A freshman student at EHS.
Amazing.
Right.
Absolutely.
No, it was, yeah.
Wow.
But I will say, I do think that lunch needed to be extended, and I'm glad it kind of is. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That little bit of time, like, I'm sorry, like,
Mhm.
for a long time, I felt like those kids just need
Yeah.
a little bit more time to just eat, be kids, do whatever you
Socialize.
do
Yeah.
at lunch.
And
instead
having
of
the
hurrying
kids
through it.
on the committee was invaluable.
Sure.
Because right now we have 4-minute periods. We looked at the 8 periods, and then we're like, but it was down to like 49 minutes or something like that. 49 minutes. Like, that's just too short. And the kid said, you can get to your class in 2 minutes probably. We don't need 4 minutes in between classes. And we decided on 3 minutes. So there's 3 minutes. But every single minute that you steal and put it into class time is huge. It really is. And then they do have 29-minute classes, but there's 3 minutes on each side. So really you have 35 minutes to eat.
So speaking of minutes, how many total minutes do the kids have in the current schedule versus this new one?
Let me go to that. So right now it's about 200 minutes. Each day. So On days that it meets 4 days a week, so that Friday, you have that class, it's 216 minutes, so it's more. The days that you meet 3 days a week, you don't have that Friday, it's 156 minutes. Yeah, 156 minutes for that week.
So
So it's a little
very-
bit of a trade-off. It's
Yeah.
a little bit, but not bad.
But very close to the
Mhm.
number of minutes that we have now.
Yep,
And how many minutes do they have for lunch currently?
20.
20?
Mhm.
And
This will
they'll
give them
have
30?
30? That's huge.
I think
Makes
that's-
for some
it is.
happy kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Huge improvement.
Although I did have the discussion on, I remember when classes were 80 minutes and every other day, and that just seemed disgusting. To
Yeah.
How can we possibly sit in a classroom for that long?
Yeah.
But I was like, but you learned it, you got through it, you did your homework like the next day, and you just kept like rotating through, but
Yeah.
we were not willing to try to wrap our heads around an 80-minute
Yeah.
class. And I was like, it was pretty doable. Like, and you
Yeah.
didn't think
Yeah.
anything of
And
it,
when
but
we
lunch
do-
was longer. Like, we did have like this, like a normal sort of lunchtime, but yet the classes were longer and just
Right.
rotated every other day.
Yeah. And when we do our 8th grade recruiting, when we go into the classrooms, the kids want to know how long the classes are. They do. And we're the only ones that have the 53-minute classes. All the others around us are 75 or 80 or 85. And the kids are like, it's a long time.
And is that an every other day that they do, the other?
Some, it varies.
Okay.
Yeah, MDI is every day for a semester. Yeah,
And then
and
you
others
do a
are
whole
every
next
other
set,
day.
the second
Right, and they start
semester.
school later, right?
So speaking of the 8th graders, a lot of them, probably most of them, have already signed up for classes
Mhm.
as freshmen, but they haven't, the schedule hasn't been voted on yet. So how is that going to work? with
So they've started, so when they sign up, we tell them 6 periods, okay? There have been a handful of 8th graders that I wanna take this other class, and we've let them do that. So some do have 7 classes right now. So if we had our 7 period, they would have a class every day, which some kids do right now, because we have focused learning, remember? So we did let them, but there aren't many, but most of them signed up for 6 periods.
But with this new schedule, do you have to change anything about
Nope.
what they signed up? Okay.
Nope, not at all. Nope. Ready to go.
My daughter signed up for something that we're voting on tonight, knowing that, okay, the board still has to vote on this, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, I think everyone's gonna be on board with this. I can't imagine somebody voting against some of these topics, because these new classes, this curriculum, it puts us on a more competitive footing with other top-notch schools around the country, especially for kids looking to go into college and for kids needing to compete globally in the workforce at some point.
Mhm.
This is the way we need to go.
Yep, and most of them are semester electives, semester classes, so they can do a lot of little different things, which I love. Yep.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve and adopt the new 2023-2024 Ellsworth High School course and bell schedule as wonderfully presented by Mr. Clifford.
I second.
Okay. Discussion? I'd just like to say how much I appreciate all the work and effort that went into this process. I love that it was a collaboration with teachers and students and administrators. Good work.
Yeah,
Thank
it's a
you.
great committee. Thank you.
Great. All those in favor? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, well done.
Number 7, approval of facilities project.
At our last facilities meeting, we looked at different quotes for our library project to transition from carpet to flooring. We have ESSER funding that is going to cover this, that was built into the ESSER grant. And the bid was emailed in your board packet from Parentos Floors in Searsport, and they are ready to roll and get this done at the beginning of the summer so that we meet our ESSER funding deadline and we have it done during the summer months. Facilities Committee voted unanimously to accept their bid and looking for your full approval this evening.
What's the current floor material? Carpet. And how, When was it installed?
Probably with the
25 years ago?
building of the school.
The back office space is the original carpeting. The one in the library area, it's over,
It's too old.
I know it's over 12 or 13.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Longer.
It's in bad shape.
Yeah.
And it's a type of material that, as opposed to a hard surface, which is what we're gonna be getting, is just a lot more difficult to clean,
Oh, yeah.
right? And keep it
Yeah.
clean and,
It holds on to spores well.
yeah.
There are things living in that carpet, yes.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe. All right, do we have a
Moving on.
motion?
I make a motion to approve the flooring project at EHS Library as presented.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks. Good. All right, that brings us to the initial budget presentation. Mrs. Bowles.
So thank you. I have passed out to the board a handout that I'll reference during this. Just wanted to talk to the public a little bit about this evening, where we're at with the budget process, what steps we've gone through thus far, and where we are headed, so that people have an idea. So first, I think it's important to talk about the goals we set going into the budget season and the things that we talked about. First and foremost, we wanted students and staff put first as we looked at our budget. Secondly, we wanted to examine our practices and how we are currently structured and doing things, and look at data to inform our decision-making. Of course, we have a fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers to ensure that we're doing all we can to get grant funding to cover what we can and help supplement what we do with local taxpayer money. And then finally, it's been really important to the leadership team to be transparent with one another and with the community, including City Council, about our process and where we're at. So those were some of our overarching goals of our budget process. So things that we have to consider as we're building this budget and some of the challenges we're facing for FY24. Of course, the biggest challenge that everyone is facing is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and how that has hovered and been so large since our last budget was passed, anywhere between 5 and 8%. So we're having to take into account, like everyone, substantial increases in energy costs, food costs, day to day, but it's also a huge impact on our salaries that we pay our employees, which, as we've talked about, is our greatest resource for our students, is the people that work with them day in and day out. So we've done 3 negotiations, the third being one that we're continuing to work on with teachers. But we also have a lot of employees that are not covered under negotiated agreements that we're also evaluating their pay and trying to figure out what's a good rate of pay in this economic climate that we're in, so that we can recruit and retain quality employees. So that's been a significant piece to this budget. And something that I think is important that people understand is 70 to 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits of our employees. The bulk of what we do is actually really small in the grand scheme of things. The majority of our budget is our people. Our enrollment has increased at Ellsworth High School and HCTC this past year. Although it's decreased at EEMS slightly, I think it's really important to note that at all schools, one of the things that we are 100% seeing is an increased need of students. We are seeing significant social emotional needs. We are seeing significant academic deficits, and we are seeing increased behavioral problems with students. So these, coupled with other factors, are really making us examine how we do business, both at an administrative level but also at a classroom level, and looking at our current practices to help with that. We also have an increase in students in our school district that are learning English as their second language, sometimes third and fourth language. That population has dramatically increased this year as well, which presents its own challenges to a budget as well. Finally, we've talked about this before, our facilities are in desperate need of some TLC. And that is a significant challenge that we are going to face moving forward. Frank has worked really hard, our facilities and maintenance director, along with his staff, in building a 5-year plan of their ideas of how this work could and should move forward over the next 5 years. Great first step, having a walkthrough with members of the city to go through EEMS and talk about and look at some of the deficits that we're facing there. We will be collaborating with the city. One of the benefits of doing that walkthrough and inviting city council was the partnerships and agreements that came out of that, and how we will look together to move forward on some of these projects, because the city has access to different types of funding than the school department has. So if there are ways we can package facility projects with the city and apply for other sources of funding, we want to try to do that because we are a department of the city. So that's been an important step, but it is something that we in the budget process are going to have to take under extreme consideration, is long-term how we're going to handle these building needs. For the budget development process, every year, your staff members bring forth their budget requests to their department heads and building leaders. I felt like our leadership team did an exceptional job this year at really scrutinizing requests that came in and determining if it was something that we could support moving forward in light of these other increased costs that we were looking to do. I feel like they did a really good job with that. And then this year, we added, it was long, but I think it was a really good exercise. Every leadership team member presented their department and/or school budget to the full leadership team. What that allowed for was conversations about why things are in our budget, and extra sets of eyes on things, discussion and rationale around why things are there. It raised equity questions across departments or schools. Well, you have this, I don't, what do you mean? Those kinds of conversations were able to be had, and really that it's our budget and all of us know it and can own it. And as we move forward to try to get support for this budget, that everyone will be on the same page moving forward. So that occurred, and then after that occurred, each department head and building principal met with the finance committee and showed them their first go of it. So that has all taken place. It's important to note that while this budget development work is going on, at the same time, we are looking at our grants and really trying to figure out how can we work our grants in such a way to help undo some of the burden from our taxpayers, to make sure that our money is being spent appropriately, and where we can put things into grant funding so that our increases are not as significant. Some of the items that I think are important to discuss and things that are being worked on and plans are in motion to finalize. We've done an examination of our leadership positions. Administratively, what does the Ellsworth School Department need moving forward? What will be the best way for us to be structured? So that is being examined. We're talking about a change in how we collaborate for pre-K and looking at solutions for pre-K. Our hospitality, travel, and tourism program at HCTC's teaching position has to come out of grant funding for the FY24 school year. So that position will be added to the HCTC budget. Looking at special ed and looking at how we can organize staff members in such a way that serves students the best and what positions are needed there. Looking at social and emotional supports for students, additional licensed clinical social workers, behavioral consultants, a BCBA. What can those bring to the table to help us deal with some of the concerns mentioned prior with the increase in significant social, emotional, and behavioral concerns that we're seeing? MTSS, our multi-tiered system of support program, has to be created and put together. That is not a choice. That is a state requirement for all schools to have that program put in place, and looking at having an MTSS coordinator to help us do that work. At the grade 8 level, looking at an additional classroom teacher to deal with increased class sizes at the 7th grade. An instructional coach for our district, right now we have one that services all 3 schools. A system of our size really could use 2, 3, 4 more. We're looking at one that would be for Ellsworth High School and Hancock County Technical Center, and one that would be at the K-8 school. And then finally, we have not had a gifted and talented teacher at Ellsworth High School for several years. It's been a half-time position. So trying to figure out what the best way is to service high school students in that area. But at the same time, as we looked at numbers, we have more students K-8 than we've ever had and need additional support at our K-8 school in the gifted and talented area. So discussing a full-time gifted and talented teacher to work with our teacher that we have currently to help service the entire system. So those are some of the big ticket personnel. People always want to know what positions are being added. Those are some of the big things that are being talked about. Doesn't mean we're going to add every single one, but those are the things that have risen to the top as being high priorities for our school system that would help best kids, serve kids, that we're talking about and looking at.
So
Then
can
I've
I-
added.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Clarification on the gifted and talented?
Yes.
So we have a full-time teacher now who's.
K-8.
In K-8. We have a half-time, we're budgeted for a half-time position at the high school, but we haven't filled that position.
Correct.
Because it's hard to fill, it's hard to hire someone who's half-time.
Yes.
So we're going to make that full-time, but that person will also support EMS because there's a lot more students there than at the high school, so.
Yes.
Okay.
So we already, like Paul said, it wouldn't be an addition of an entire new position. It would be an
Budget-wise.
addition of a half of a position in the budget, because we already have had that position in the budget.
Right.
That hasn't been filled, even though it hasn't been for lack of trying.
Yeah.
The GT certification is a hard certification. It's different,
Mhm.
and you have to be committed to taking coursework to be able to do that. So that's another piece to the puzzle also for this position. So what I've put on here for you is the timeline moving forward, which we got notification today had changed a little bit. So March 28th at our next school board workshop will be the official presentation. March 31st, I will be going to the Finance Committee of the City Council. April 11th, we hope that you will be ready to vote and approve the budget. April 13th, I will present the budget to the full City Council at 5 o'clock. And then what has happened is City Council was supposed to meet, and they've changed their April meeting because too many city councilors were going to be gone. So they're doing their April meeting on April 10th, which is, of course, before they're done all their budget workshops. Typically, they would vote in April on our budget. So they will be calling a special meeting when counselors are all back at the end of April to vote on our budget. But what that does is you have to have 60 days between the election and the referendum for the budget and the vote at the city council. So by pushing the vote back to the end of April, our normal referendum date will now be the end of June, which is fine. I mean, law is we just absorb our budget from this year into next year if something funky happened, but it won't, it'll be fine. And so that's up in the air as to when in April the city council will vote on our budget in its entirety, and then what the date will be for the referendum in June. So that information will be forthcoming. But those 4 dates that I've listed for you in this memo are set in stone.
Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate the work that you have done on this budget and the process.
Thank you.
that you went through.
I really want to thank Carolyn Heller, Kathy O'Halloran, and Amy Atherton. They're much more involved in the process than they historically have been. And so it's been really nice to have extra sets of eyes on all parts of the budget. And leadership team has been awesome too. I've asked them to give up additional time to be partners in looking at everyone's budgets, and so I appreciate their work on it also.
I appreciate the collaboration here. It's been really a long time coming.
So nice.
Thanks.
All right, that brings us to item J, calendar and announcements. The Finance Committee met this morning. We have our board workshop a week from tonight here in council chambers. Personnel Committee meets April 3rd. Policy Committee meets April 3rd as well at 1. Curriculum Committee meets April 4th. Facilities and Transportation Committee meets April 10th, and our next school board meeting is Tuesday, April 11th, here in council chambers. And that brings us to item K, adjournment.
Having no further business, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
It's second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.